Well, just when you thought you could relax, another report out there. West Virginia running backs coach and legend Chad Scott is the top guy for Texas. This could be terrible.
You are Locked On West Virginia, your daily podcast on the West Virginia Mountaineers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up? Welcome in, guys. My name is Matt Mountaineer Paul. I am the host. This is Locked On West Virginia for the third time today because I have to come on here and talk about this before the game, or otherwise I wouldn't be able to focus. I want to get this out of my system. I'll have this done with about 5 minutes to go before the game. So just stick around with me before we do all that. So Matt Zenitz, he breaks news like nobody's business, man, reporting as of a half an hour ago, West Virginia's Chad Scott has emerged as the leading candidate for running backs coach opening at Texas, sources tell CBS Sports. He's worked at West Virginia since 2019, including as WVU's offensive coordinator in 2023 and 2024 under Neil Brown, and helped West Virginia rank in the top 10 among Power 4 teams in rushing each of the last two seasons. Very frustrating. I don't know. Now, that doesn't mean that he'll leave, right? I think that's the first solace you take. The other thing he says here is under Scott, Jaheim White, and C.J. Donaldson, who is now at Ohio State, combined to rush for 3,200 yards, 3,277 yards, and 33 touchdowns the last 2 years. West Virginia's averaged 229 rushing per game in 2023, ranked number one again amongst Power 4 teams. So I want to start here. He wasn't Rich Rod's first choice, right? And I don't know how much that's going to impact this decision. We all know that Rich Rod had another guy in mind, right? And for whatever reason, kind of let Chad Scott go for a minute. Now, that wasn't all, none of this was officially reported, but we did hear that nobody was staying. Then all of a sudden, Matt Moore was at Virginia Tech, etc. So I think there was a point in time there where Chad Scott wasn't a part of this, and which is why you saw Jaheim White and other guys kind of being grateful when he came back, right? Like there was a sigh of relief collectively amongst a bunch of the guys. He deserves this move up, first of all. If he does take it, while the first thing to do is think about yourself. I just want to say, if Chad Scott gets this job, you deserve it, man. You deserve more, honestly. I think they paid him about the same, and he had to drop down the title from offensive coordinator to just running backs coach, and he didn't. He's taken that with a complete smile. But if this happens, man, it's really bad timing. And I haven't got a chance to dig in and figure out whether or not, if this has legs or not. But I just wanted to get on here and say a couple words about Chad Scott. I think he was by far the most impressive coach we had out of all of them since 2019. The way he works, the way he speaks, the way he develops players, the way players love him, and more. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend like this wouldn't be a huge, huge loss, because it would be. Now, the fallout from losing a guy like Chad Scott isn't going to be immediate because the portal isn't open. Guys can go in the portal, they just can't transfer, I think is how it is. Or maybe it's the reverse. If you're already in the portal, then you can transfer. I think that's how it is. But anyway. So I think that the second thing you go to is, well, who are we going to lose? Well, the number one person that comes to your mind is Jaheim White. He literally said to my face, the reason I came back was because Chad Scott. So the fantasy that we've had about him and the Rich Rod offense may just continue to be a fantasy. Maybe it's too late in the process to be leaving and all that. I don't know. I guess it would depend on if Texas wanted him or not, and that kind of thing. Because, I mean, the logical next step you would think is like, yeah, take the best player to Texas. But that's way out ahead, and I have no idea if that would happen. and not going to project that out there until I talk to Jaheim, and I doubt he'll tell me anyway. But on a surface level reaction, this is bad for West Virginia. It's not good for West Virginia at all. I was so happy when West Virginia locked him up. Well, one thing West Virginia has in their favor is the contract. I believe it's pretty sizable for running backs coach, but Texas can match that. I think it's $700,000. So, that's not. It's not going to do anything. I go back to when the coaches were let go, all of them. And a part of me just wonders, if that's something Chad Scott has on his mind now. Like, you could have locked him up, instead of going another route. And that guy went to Marshall instead of West Virginia. He followed the other coach, Rod. And you just wonder, is it going to play a factor in Coach Scott's decision? I don't think he's that petty, but who knows, man? I don't know how wanted Coach Scott feels. Like it's almost like he was the second choice in a way because he was. And I get it. You want continuity of staff, and Rich Rod's more familiar with the other coach and all that. But gosh, man, you literally had Penn State, Texas. I mean, all these teams have looked at Chad Scott for running back coach. Like he's good enough to be at the best of the best. I don't understand, man. But here we are. And this could be from just the Texas side of things as far as reporting goes. I won't sit here and pretend like it's the West Virginia side of things putting that out there. If it happens, I will say this. You got to look to Pat White. You probably have to look inward. If there's one person that could save it, maybe it's Pat White. There's no doubt in my mind that he could coach running backs if needed to. You've got him in-house already. He's got quarterbacks. Might as well give him running backs. You still got a guy with quarterbacks. You can do a little bit of both. But I don't know. I mean, is that because, the legend of Pat White could probably keep a guy like Jaheim here or, and then look, you can't fall out all over one player. And I get that. And I don't know how many players on that team, given that he was the OC the last 2 years, are tied to him. I mean, I guess you have to look at who on the roster has been here that's still here. That's most of the offensive line as far as like guys like Bosley, Livingston, Cray, and then you've got guys like obviously Jaheim White. You got the two freshman running backs. You have Nico, obviously, could be a big one for him. Who knows? I'm not going to say he's going to leave over Chad Scott either, but I doubt it. And others too. You look at some of the receivers. Obviously, Brandon Raymond has been here with Chad Scott for a few years now, and a lot more. There's a lot more. Rodney Gallagher. So there are losses that could be had. The only one that I would consider major that I can think of off the top of my head would be either Nico or Jaheim. So, most all the other big players have kind of left, but I don't know, man. You can't really say no to Texas if they come knocking, and here they are at Chad Scott's door. So it really depends on if he wants to finish the job with this squad that's assembled now, or if a clean slate's better for him. For his career, I would imagine going to Sarkisian and them guys. I mean, how can you turn that down? They're operating at a Dabo Swinney level right now. Whenever they got that Clemson thing turned, that's where Texas is at now. They're going to be a national title contender year in and year out, which means every guy on that staff is going to have a job probably for the foreseeable future. If Rich Rod doesn't work out at West Virginia, who knows what happens with Chad Scott? And I just think that it would be a smart move for him, but who am I? Let me go to break real quick. I'll give you my final thoughts, and then we'll get to the basketball game, guys. Stick around. Give me 2 more minutes. This is Locked On West Virginia. And this episode of Locked On West Virginia is going to be brought to you by TurboTax. We know all about TurboTax. If you don't know, now you know. Intuit TurboTax is for everybody. Taxes, we used to be dealing with piles of paperwork, frustrating forms, and then waiting and wondering and worrying if you're going to get any money back. Well, now Taxes is easily uploading your forms to TurboTax expert who's matched to your unique tax situation, an expert who's backed by the latest technology with cross checks and millions of data points on 100% accuracy. While they work on your taxes, you get real-time updates on their progress, and you get that money back, baby, guaranteed, the most money. All while you go about your day. No stressing, wondering, or worrying, waiting, any of it. This is Taxes Intuit TurboTax. Get an expert now at TurboTax.com. Only available with TurboTax Live Full Service. Real-time updates only in the iOS mobile app. See guarantee details at TurboTax.com/guarantees. All right, guys. We've got about 5 minutes till the game tips off. So I've given my thoughts on this third live of the day. While it would be an enormous loss, I won't be shocked if Chad Scott takes this job. But I also won't be shocked if he stays. We'll find out here soon in the coming days. This is a decision. You go to Chad Scott and say, we kind of need you to make this thing so that we can fix our end, and we'll see what happens. But if he ends up going, I'll obviously cover it, and you can see it right here on Locked On West Virginia, the best place to get West Virginia news anymore. As you can see, this is my third live video of the day, and I cover the team like that on a daily basis. Now I've got my health back. I got Factor meals in the fridge, Factor juice in the fridge. I'm doing better, guys. So I'll see you guys after the game, internet willing. I don't know how this one looked, but we'll see. Have a great one, guys. Thanks for making Locked On West Virginia your first listen. Being part of the Locked On Podcast Network, we talk about your team every single day. Make sure you check out Locked On College Basketball next, and I'll see you in a couple hours after we beat the Bearcats in Morgantown, guys. See you in a few.